Hello, everyone. Welcome to our class. This is SS031, Understanding the Self. Still, this is Sir E, your online facilitator, your instructor here in SS031. And today, we will be starting our discussion for our midterm on our first lecture, which is on the physical self. But before we start with our lecture, let me just ask if there are some of you who were able to watch the K drama entitled Gangnam Beauty. Now, perhaps many of you are familiar with this K drama. Now, Gangnam Beauty is actually a K drama which centers on the life of a college student who went under cosmetic surgery to evade derision from her bullies, yet her decision seems to backfire as her peers ridicule her artificial look. You know what? In society, okay, where there's always that pressure for you to look good and to seek a visually better version of yourself, of course, we always get so caught up with the ways we can make sure that we look beautiful and nice that sometimes we frown often on our natural looks, our complexion, or even our stature, perhaps. And in this story, this is not an exemption. However, when she went under the knife, that's the moment that at least her decision backfired on her because her peers, her friends, thought that her artificial look does not really suit her well. And this will be a part of our discussion for this chapter, which is all about the physical self. Again, welcome to S031. This is Understanding the Self, and today our discussion will be concentrating on the physical self. In this lesson, we will be able to first understand the biological concept of our physical selves. Also, we'll try to analyze the impact of culture on body image and self esteem. And hopefully, at the end of these lesson, we will be able to celebrate beauty in diversity. Now, Amy Bloom perfectly stated this: you are imperfect, permanently and inevitably flawed, and you are beautiful. According to again to Amy Bloom, you are imperfect. That is a statement. That is a declarative statement. You are imperfect. You are flawed. And she described our flaws are as permanent and inevitable. Still, despite of our imperfections, despite of our permanent and inevitable flaws, there's still a declaration that we are beautiful. Again, according to Amy Bloom, you are imperfect, permanently and inevitably flawed, and you are beautiful. As I said a while ago, there is always a pressure in our society to look good and to seek a visually better version of ourselves. We often get so caught up with the ways that we can make sure that we look beautiful and nice and presentable, if not beautiful to them. That sometimes we frown on our natural looks, even perhaps for Filipinos, our dark complexion, or even our short stature. Now, the social pressure of looking perfect gave rise to the many beauty products and enhancement procedures being patronized by a large portion of our population, no matter how expensive they might be, just to fit in, to be accepted, and to be beautiful. Now, if you're going to look at your screen right now, you will see here some of the skincare products that perhaps every girl must own. However, hindi naman magpapahuli dyan yung mga kalalakihan because again, if some, if not many women are quite vain on how they look, definitely even men, okay, have their vanities as well. Okay? May mga kilala kayong mga lalaki na ayaw na pinapahawakan yung kanilang buhok. Di ba? So, they have to take care of themselves as well. Okay? So, this social pressure of looking perfect gave rise to these many products. Okay, that's the reason why maraming mga tao ngayon no, nagpupunta kila Vicky Velo. Okay, so they try to enhance their features, their physical features, to be accepted, because that's what the society actually looks at. Now, in a world where fairer skin and a size zero for women are deemed attractive, if not stunning, we can only expect ourselves to follow and abide by the mantra beauty is power, no matter how destructive it might be for us. In a way, perhaps many of us might not agree that beauty is power, but in our society right now, this is the reality. If you are beautiful, then perhaps you might have an edge still. Okay? Sa ibang mga tao, say for example, if you're going to apply for a job at meron kang kasabay na nag-a-apply sa trabahong yon na maganda or mas maganda sa iyo, 'di ba? Pakiramdam mo dehado ka na kaagad. Sana iniisipin mo lang na perhaps sana man lang may question and answer portion, di ba? Perhaps there could be an interview portion para may bawi man lang kahit papaano. But that's the reality of our world today. Beauty is power. But even though that's the reality, sometimes it could be very destructive for us. Now, on the next screen, you will see here, okay, yung before and after looks ng ilang mga Asians who tried to alter their physical looks. Now, who would have thought that these people, okay, were actually them before. Okay. So, of course, again, as we try to study the physical self, we suspend and we try to avoid being judgmental of people, what their decisions are, at least. But we have to go beyond the decisions of people and see from our society's perspective why people are trying to go under the knife to feel accepted and whatnot. But even before we try to do that, now let me go back to the K drama uh, Gangnam Beauty. Just a trivia for you. Gangnam is actually the Makati it's like the Makati district of our country. This is like the central business district in Seoul. When I was studying in my school back then during my master's degree, Gangnam area is just like 10 minutes walk from my school. So usually we go there. Madali lang pumunta dito from Yangjedong to Gangnam area. So somehow I am very much familiar with Gangnam. Now, why is it that we look like ourselves? Yun muna yung ating pag-usapan dito, no? Bakit ba tayo ay kamukha ng ating mga sarili? But before that, remember that our physical selves have become so dependent, okay, on the judgment of our appearance and not with the celebration of it. And in this chapter, we will look at the work of nature and nurture and how nature and nurture greatly influence the features of our physical selves, particularly how we look, and how standards of beauty, both local and global contexts, have affected our self acceptance. Because definitely there is an influence of the society standards of beauty on how we try to accept ourselves, because sometimes our self acceptance is dependent on how the society accepts us. We will also look into the different cultural standards of beauty and how it has affected our self concept, our self esteem, our body image, and realize that beauty, hopefully, we will realize that beauty in all shapes and sizes is meant to be celebrated. And so, as we proceed, we'll try to discuss why do we look like ourselves? Have you ever faced the mirror and asked yourselves, why do I look like me? Now, science explains that our parents are very much instrumental, okay? That our parents are very much instrumental in the way that we look at the moment. Gregor Mendel first figured out how genes are passed from parents to offspring in plants, including humans. In his experiments on pea plants, it showed that genes are passed intact from generation to generation and that traits are not blended. Now, Mendel's discovery was that
It is through the genes. Okay, it is through the genes that traits were passed from parent to offspring through several generations. Okay, now genetics definitely has a hand on our physical appearance. Our biology dictates that our looks are a result of the genes transferred to us by our parents, from our skin tone, hair color, to our height. Our physical features are an evidence that we are our parents' children. When heredity is actually at work, we find ourselves being the mirrors of our parents, kamukha tayo ng ating mga magulang, which was the result of their DNAs at work in us, and for some, even like carbon copies of them. Now, if you're familiar with the DNA, ito yung in your senior high school, perhaps you realize that the DNA is the deoxyribonucleic acid. Ito yung nagpapasa dahilan kung bakit nagiging kahawig natin yung ating mga magulang, yung nasa may genes ito ng ating mga magulang. Take the case of, for example, itong mga kilala nating mga Hollywood actors and actresses. Now you have here uh, Kim Kardashian at yung kanyang nanay dito na si Kris Jenner, right? And then you have this one, si Reese Witherspoon at ang kanyang anak na kamukhang kamukha niya. And this one, I'm not sure if you're familiar with this um, Hollywood actress. This is Demi Moore. Okay? At yung kanyang anak. Na kahawig niya rin. Of course, bakit pa tayo lalayo? Of course, ako din naman. Okay? So, hindi pwedeng sabihin na hindi ko kamukha yung nanay ko. Kasi parang I am the male version of my mother. So this is the reason why we look. It's because of the genes of our parents, which is transferred to us through the work of the DNA or the deoxyribonucleic acid. Now, let's look at the cultural standards of beauty. Now, defining beauty is actually contextual. Defining beauty is contextual. As culture decides the norms of the society, its concept of what is beautiful similarly invoke from a cultural perspective. As suffice it to say that describing such would be problematic since it is contextual, okay, to say the least. Now, different cultures have different standards of beauty. Now, during the 19th century, in the African country, in an African country, it was recorded that some men and women were set aside in a special place for fattening purposes. In addition, they were covered in large amounts of tapa bark cloth, which after the ritual is over reveals a lighter skin for those who were selected. Now, the goal of these fattening rooms, okay, of this ritual is to enhance the beauty of these women, not only by feeding them, but by making sure that they get a lighter skin afterwards. Now, fattening rooms are used less these days, but they are still relevant among particularly well off families. This was also recorded in Nigeria, also an African country, during the ancient times when being fat was viewed as a sign of fertility, of prosperity, and of beauty. Now, these examples impeccably depict how beauty is explained distinctly in different societies. Now, in fattening rooms, in some African cultures, this is where big is beautiful. Okay? So, iba-iba yung standards ng mga tao pagdating sa kaisipan ng kung ano ang maganda. Now, Lakoff and Share said that beauty in their book, Face Value, The Politics of Beauty, Lakoff and Share explained that beauty was not just a product of wealth, but it is a commodity in and of itself. When we say commodity, ito yung binibili, di ba? Pangangailangan, right? So when you talk about beauty, it is not just a product of wealth, but this is perhaps, and this has become somehow a commodity in of itself. In other words, it was no longer a matter of looking to wealth to find beauty, but of looking to beauty to find status. Now, beauty could give the illusion of wealth. That is true, right? Di ba kapag meron kang kakilala or unang kita mo pa lang kapag siya ay maputi, iniisip mo ay siguro ano ito, yayamanin. 'Di ba? So sometimes when you talk about the concept of beauty in our society where kapag maganda ka dapat maputi ka, 'di ba? At kapag maputi ka iniisip nila na ikaw ay mayaman ka agad. Right? So you talk about the standards of beauty. In fact, when you talk about beauty, it's always looking to beauty to find status. Kapag ikaw ay maganda, mas mataas ang status mo. Kapag ikaw ay maganda, ikaw ay pagbibigyan ng upuan sa sasakyan. Pero kapag ikaw ay hindi maganda sa standard, excuse me, ng lipunan mo, okay, hindi ka bibigyan ng upuan, tutulugan ka. Okay? So that is how standards of beauty actually has become uh, terrible, at least for many societies. Okay, now, do you agree with Lakoff and Scher's definition of beauty? Well, perhaps no matter how we disagree, when we talk about the reality of what beauty is in our society at the moment, this is a perfect description of what beauty is all about. Excuse me. Now, in the Philippines, the construction of local standards of beauty can be traced from our colonial influences. Skin color signifies the value of the people in society. Lighter skinned individuals are considered higher in terms of social status dahil maputi, and therefore in the social rank compared to those with brown or dark skin. True. Our concept, okay, of physical selves as Filipinos is largely associated with our skin color historically. Our people were colonized by fairer skinned races, right? So you have the Spaniards, you have the Americans, and the Japanese. So, yung mga colonizers na ito, nung nakita natin sila, so we already felt like they were people who were higher than us. They were our conquerors. Just the same that they conquered us, we thought that they were superior. They were better than us. Okay, dark skinned people. And it has been the problem ever since historically. And that is still rampant until now. Nakikita pa rin natin yung ideya na yon. Okay? Sa kasalukuyan. Now, the colonization of our country by these white-skinned people, okay, the Americans, the Spaniards, the Japanese, lasted for more than 3 centuries. 3 centuries, meaning more than what? 300 years. We were forced to believe that they were the more superior people, that they were more civilized, and even how they look were deemed as standards of beauty. But this is a very Eurocentric perspective, which has influenced our concept of attractiveness even today. Free as we are, claiming we are still, our mindset is very much a slave of a white culture. Now, their whiteness has become a goal for most Filipinos, right? Kaya nga tayo bumibili ng mga uh, kojic soap, bumibili ng mga papaya soap, and all that. It's because our concept of beauty is very much Eurocentric. It's very much Americanized, right? Their whiteness has become the goal for most Filipinos that even our television and movie personalities here mirror their looks. Right? So yung mga bida nating mga artista dito sa mga pelikula, um, sa telebisyon, makikita mo na dapat pumuti sila or dapat maputi sila. Right? Kapag ikaw ay dark skin, usually ikaw ay sidekick. Or kung magbida ka man, komedyante ka, nagpapatawa ka. Okay? So people will not take you seriously as an actor or as an actress if your color is not in the standard. Okay. Now, the Filipino obsession with beauty, okay, translates. Okay, not only with women but also with men, because again, when you talk about the vanity of people, when you talk about the standards of beauty, of course it's not just solely concentrated on women, but we have to look also at the obsession of men, okay, with beauty. And today and here we will look at the case of Xander Ford, previously known as Marlu Arizala, a former member of Hash 5, a teen boy band which became an online sensation a couple of years ago, not because of their attractiveness, but because of the disgust and animosity they receive because of their ugly faces. And for many, they thought not only because of their ugly faces, but also because of their ugly attitude. Now, Xander's decision to alter his physical appearance was not without the pressure of the society to look good, if not better. Now, he was thinking perhaps that people would be taking him seriously kung ganon ang kanyang itsura. He was not spared from bullying since he became an internet sensation, because by our standards, the standards of our beauty, he simply is unattractive. Okay? Now, his decision to go under the knife was because of a lookist culture, isang kulturang tumitingin sa pisikal na kaanyuan, okay, ng mga tao. His decision to go under the knife was because of a lookist culture which dictates that happiness is only afforded to good-looking people. Kung hindi ka maganda, kung hindi ka gwapo, hindi ka magiging masaya. As our society puts premium to Eurocentric standards of beauty, we victimize our own people for looking otherwise. Pinagtatawanan natin ang ating mga sarili dahil hindi tayo nakakaabot doon sa standard na yon. Kapag hindi ka maputi, hindi ka magiging masaya. Kapag hindi ka maganda, according sa standard ng kultura mo, hindi ka magiging masaya. Sabi nga dun sa isang nabasa kong article, and this is not from me, ang sabi doon, we have become brown-skinned people with white minds. Right? But in reality, we are not white people. Diba? Hindi naman tayo mga Amerikano. Hindi naman tayo mga Espanyol. But then again, we have to trace back history and how our colonization era has deeply affected and impacted how we not only look at our history, but how we look at our physical selves in comparison to the physical looks of our colonizers. Now, Sutherford's uh, Xander Ford's surgery, okay, was sponsored by a cosmetic surgery clinic, unlike many who shell out thousands, if not millions, just to look physically appealing. So, makikita nyo dito yung kanyang doktor, okay? This was his doctor, okay, na nag-ayos ng kanyang muka. Well, perhaps we can say that Xander Ford's cosmetics called a success. However, we have to that not all surgeries are deemed safe. Okay? Now, ito pong doktor ni Xander Ford mismo. Okay? Si Dr. Yapuanco. Okay? Xander Ford's plastic surgeon conducted 3 procedures on businesswoman Cheryl Saturnino March of 2018, if I'm not mistaken. However, the latter died. Namatay po itong businesswoman na ito in the process. Reports from the Philippine National Crime Laboratory says that Ms. Saturnino died of fat embolism, a condition where there was fat in the blood vessels which entered into the lungs of the victims, okay, making it hard for her to breathe, and that's the reason why ano nangyari? Siya po ay namatay under the night. Truth is, women have been evaluated based on their appearance more than men. And this is the reality. They have been valued and devalued based on how they look. It's for this reason that many women fall prey to even unnecessary cosmetic surgeries due to the desire of wanting to look good, if not perfect. Okay, now let's look at how much. Okay, yung naging cost ng makeover ni Xander Ford. So on your screen right now, I got these from Pep, but the photo is actually courtesy of Star Image Artist Management. This is the management of uh, handle ng career ni Xander Ford before. I'm not sure right now. Okay, so you will see here how much it cost. Okay, so yung kanyang eyebrow. Okay, for the eyebrow clowning, that's worth around 16 to 35,000. And then anti-wrinkle, para walang wrinkles sa forehead, that's 7,000. Yung kanyang eyelash extension, that's 3,800. Rhinoplasty, okay, para patangusin ang ilong, that's worth 95,000. And then you have lip tint procedure. Are some lips kasi na medyo pale. So lip tint procedure is worth around 15 to 35,000 pesos para hindi ka na nag-lipstick pa, pula na talaga. And then you have ceramic veneers, pinayos ang kanyang ngipin, that's worth around 160,000 pesos. And then you have the mandibular angle augmentation para makita yung edges ng kanyang panga. Okay, kasi nakakagwapo yan. Okay, sabi nila. Okay, kapag kita yung jawline, okay, ng isang lalaki. And then you have the mentoplasty para yung sa kanyang baba naman for around 60 to 70,000. It was estimated, okay, that the cost of the makeover was around 465,800. This is actually still quite cheap, ano, kasi because I was expecting na medyo mas mahal dito. But then again, if may mga na, there are some people who are going under the knife, perhaps nagre-range yung price ng ganito. Well, we don't know, no, kapag kila Manny Calayan or kila Dr. Vicky Bello. Okay? But then again, we have to understand, people, that health concerns are for most, okay, to be considered before going through this kinds of surgeries. However, there are those who still feel that there is always a need for them to alter whichever part of their body because they feel that they do not look beautiful, even if you tell them that they already are. This perspective seems to be the case not only for a lot of millennials, but for those who are suffering from body dysmorphic disorder or BDD. Now, when we talk about body dysmorphic disorder, a definition dun sa may screen natin, this is defined as a severe form of body image disturbance characterized by an excessive concern or preoccupation with one's appearance and weight. Yung siguro sa isang araw, hindi ka mapakali. Sa isang oras, tumitingin ka ng mga 30 times sa salamin or hindi ka mapakali. Kailangan mong umapak sa weighing scale para makita kung ikaw ay nagdagdag ng timbang. Doon po sa mga may body dysmorphic disorder, ito po yung kanilang usually na pinagdadaanan. Now, those who are suffering from body dysmorphic disorder are so obsessed, okay, about their appearance, okay? Thus, they think about their flaws, real or not, incessantly and uncontrollably. Now, we have to understand that sometimes the flaws that we think about ourselves are real, but some of these flaws are actually not real. Okay, so those who are suffering from BDD think about their flaws, whether they see it physically or perhaps iniisip lang nila na meron sila because they are so obsessed about their appearance. Okay, they cannot control thinking about their flaws incessantly. Patuloy, nagpapatuloy, hindi natatapos at ganun yung kanilang ginagawa. Okay. Now, those who are diagnosed with this disorder are very much preoccupied, okay, by a perceived physical flaw that is either absent or napakaliit lang naman, which are so trivial that only the one suffering from it sees it as a problem. Being so much distressed about it, the daily routines are affected. Halimbawa, perhaps yung may BDD, tinubuan lang ng isang pimple sa ilalim ng baba na napakaliit. Diba? Masisira na yung kanyang routine for the entire week. Hindi na siya papasok, hindi na siya kikilos because those suffering from this think of their flaws even though other people don't really think about it anymore. But they can't control it. Okay? Okay? They think about their flaws, whether they're real or not, incessantly and uncontrollably. Now, those who are suffering from this disorder are so self-anxious that they seek cosmetic surgeries to finally solve their body issues. Now, Dr. Eric Yapwanko, the surgeon of Xander Ford, okay, when asked about this, he explained that the reason why millennials are so obsessed with plastic surgery is because they want to be more pleasing, to be more beautiful. They consider having a beautiful face and body is always an edge in most aspects of life, especially in getting into their chosen career. Okay. Now, I have a question for all of you guys. What do you think is the most popular cosmetic procedure in the Philippines? Okay. Ano yung pinaka-popular na cosmetic procedure sa Pilipinas? Okay, in the last couple of years. Last couple of years. Ang pinaka-popular po ay this one. Rhinoplasty, okay, or nose job. Okay, so makikita natin yung example dito ng before and after picture ng isang kilalang TV and movie actress here in the Philippines, si Kim Chu. So you see the before and after look. Okay, so itong picture na ito, I got this from pep.ph just as well. Okay, okay. Now, the quest for physical perfection has brought us to an ordeal that will not end unless we get to the bottom of the problem. Our society, remember, has not only placed so much importance on looking beautiful, but also has done a great job in commercializing beauty. Even the Americans are also in trouble for wanting to be physically appealing. Okay? Hindi lang po tayo ang nagkakaproblema pagdating po doon. Perhaps at one point in our lives, we have implicitly or explicitly criticized or even ridiculed for how we look. Our standards have become so unbearable that our society mocks us for looking imperfect. And this has caused many of us to lose confidence in ourselves and break that one last strand of self esteem that we do have. When women in particular get called out, say for example, for being heavy, if not obese, they are not called as such by people to remind them that healthy for their own good, but they were called out as fat, as heavy, as obese, not to be healthy, but most people do that just to vilify their looks and to magnify their imperfections. These in turn results to not only having a strong desire for the bullied to get thin, but with it also comes that fear of gaining weight, thus restricting themselves from food intake. Now, here's a picture of one of my favorite singers of all time. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Karen Carpenter. This was her picture back in 1977. Perhaps your grandparents or your parents are still familiar with her. Ang kanyang buhay po was made into a movie before, and I remember when I was very, very, very young, I was able to watch her life story on R9. Okay, kung hindi po kayo familiar kay Karen Carpenter, siya yung kumanta nung ever famous na Top of the World. Okay, sa mga karaoke bars, and also ano pa yung mga kinta niya, Close to You, Mr. Postman. Okay, Why Do Birds Suddenly Appear? Yung kantang yun, okay, siya po yun. But then again, um, his, her, her popularity was cut short because ang doon sa niyang career, when I read her biography, marami nang actually concerned about her weight loss, okay, during her stratospheric rise to fame. Okay. But then again, siya po ay namatay because of anorexia bulimia. Kasi siya ay kumakain, but hindi na tinatanggap ng kanyang katawan. Okay, yung kanyang kinakain. uh, it has become a mental disorder in a way, and later on I will be discussing that. But before, let me first define what anorexia is all about. Now, anorexia is defined as a serious mental illness. Ito po yung sinasabi ko na when we talk about anorexia, it's not just a health issue. It's actually a mental illness. Okay, so this is where people are of low weight. Okay, due to limiting their intake. Okay, due to limiting their energy intake. We have to understand that anorexia again is not just a health problem, but it is considered as a serious mental illness. It can affect anyone of any age, of any gender, whether you're a man or a woman, or any background, kahit na mayaman ka or mahirap ka, as well as restricting the amount of food eaten. They may do lots of exercises to get rid of food eaten. Some people with anorexia may experience cycles of binging. Okay, yung tinatawag nating binge eating. Kailan kayo nag-binge eating? When I was a student, I usually binge eat after and before exams. Okay, but usually after an exam, whether I do well or not, I eat a lot. Okay, parang naubos mo na yung energy mo, so kailangan mong kumain ng kumain. On your screen right now, you will see here, okay, the two types of anorexia. The first one is anorexia, and the other one is almost anorexia. These are not the two types, but let's look at this one. Okay, almost anorexic, even though you are not anorexic yet. Okay, it's too serious to be ignored. Now, the prevalence, okay, of anorexia, 1 in 200 people are anorexic. Okay, however, those who are almost anorexic, okay, marami ito, 1 in 20 people are almost anorexic. What is the food restriction between anorexic people and those who are almost anorexic? Anorexic people have severe restrictions in eating. Perhaps they will not eat for a week or two. Okay, so ganun ng mga anorexic. For food, doon sa mga almost anorexic, frequent restrictions. When we say frequent restrictions, perhaps they will not eat for a day. Okay, okay, or 2 days a week. Okay, now for binge eating, those who are anorexic, they have severe binge eating. Sometimes when they binge eat, uubusin nila perhaps yung laman ng kanilang refrigerator. Okay, forever for those who are almost anorexic, they have mild binge eating. Okay, purging. When we talk about purging, okay, ito yung kanilang sinusuka yung kanilang mga kinakain. There's frequent purging for anorexic people. Talagang sinusuka nila yung kanilang mga kinakain. Okay, those who are almost anorexic, nagkakaroon sila ng infrequent purging din naman. That's the reason why we cannot ignore those who are almost anorexic, because purging is still purging. Infrequent purging is still purging. Okay, those who are anorexic have a chronic, okay, negative body image. They don't really like their body. That's the reason why, okay, they restrict themselves from food. Okay, however, those who are almost anorexic, they have a negative body image. Okay, hindi nila type yung kanilang katawan, pero pag doon sa anorexic, ayaw na ayaw talaga nila ng kanilang katawan. Pangit na pangit sila sa kanilang mga sarili. Now, the recommended action both for anorexic and almost anorexic are the same: to seek professional evaluation. Even though a person is anorexic or almost anorexic, okay, the recommended action, okay, are one and the same for both. Okay, and that is to seek professional evaluation. Okay, now again, we have to consider that it's not only anorexia that's the problem of many people with regards to our physical selves. We talk the concept also of body shaming. Okay, this is not the only suffering of those who have been criticized for their weight. Now, body shaming, which is criticizing yourself or others because of some aspect of physical appearance, has resulted in the loss of confidence of those who have been thin shamed or fat shamed. Let me just highlight the definition of body shaming here. Now, body shaming is what? Criticizing yourself or others. So, perhaps, and this is the reality, as part of the definition here, you can actually body shame yourself, right? Sinutingin ka sa salamin, sabi, ang taba-taba mo, ang payat-payat mo, para ka ng tingting. Ganyan. Di ba minsan tumitingin ka sa salamin and you try to vilify your physical looks. That's actually body shaming. You try to criticize yourself. Body shaming does not only happen when you criticize other people, but body shaming happens also to yourself when you criticize yourself. That's the reason why, as defined, body shaming is criticizing yourself or others because of what? Because of some aspect of physical appearance. Hindi naman perhaps totally hindi mo gusto ang lahat sa itsura mo. Perhaps may ilang bagay na sana hindi ganon iniisip mo yung itsura mo. And this has resulted in the loss of confidence of those who have been thin shamed or fat shamed. Okay? So, ayun po yung bagay na maintindihan natin. And we also have the concept of body image disturbance or BD. Now, body image disturbance or BID is an important aspect of several pathologies in psychology, particularly eating disorders. There are two components of body image disturbance. The first one is the perceptual component. And when you talk about the perceptual component, this refers to how we accurately perceive our body size, also known as the body size estimation. Okay, the attitudinal component, which refers to how we think and feel about the size and or shape of their body. Okay, yung perception natin is the accurate perception of our body size. If, for example, you know that you're 5'7", so that is your perceptual component. But your attitudinal component is how do you think or what do you think about that height of yours? Say, for example, ikaw ay 5'1". Okay? Masaya ka ba na 5'1"? The perceptual component is that you are 5'1". But the attitudinal component is that how do you feel about being 5 feet and 1 inch only? Right? So these are the two components of body image, okay, disturbance. So you have the perceptual component, okay, and the attitudinal component, which, if not correctly processed, will result to body dissatisfaction. Now the question is, have you ever been body shamed, and how did it make you feel, and how did you handle it? Okay, so ayun po yung pinaka-importante na dapat natin maintindihan dito. Okay? Well, when you talk about body shaming, I feel like perhaps at one point in our lives, okay, explicitly or implicitly, again, we have been body shamed. Okay, if not by other people, by ourselves, because of how we look and how we feel about the look that we have now. Stiles and Whitington found out that body dissatisfaction is also linked with mental disorders, including depression and anxiety among adolescents. Now, on your screen right now, you will see here the difference between when do you know that you are depressed and when do you know that you are anxious. I got this from anxiety.org, healthcare brands. So let's see here. Those who are frustrated, siguro sama-sama na ito, no? Frustrated, sad, you're feeling worthless, you're irritable, perhaps there's a loss of interest in normal activities, thoughts of suicide or death, you feel tired all the time, and there's a disturbance in sleep or appetite. If merong ilan dito or marami dito ang nararanasan ng isang tao, there is a probability that that person is actually depressed. When you are frustrated, sad, you feel worthless, you are irritable, you have lost interest in normal activities like eating, even taking a shower or whatnot. Sometimes you entertain the thoughts of taking your own life. Okay, you feel tired. By the way, people, please do not do that. Okay, life is too beautiful to just be taken away from you. Okay, so and then you feel tired and you do not want to eat anymore. um that's actually, those are actually symptoms of being depressed. Okay, how about being anxious? Okay, yung nagtitremble ka, these are signs of being anxious. Increased breathing rate. Okay, parang nauubusan ka ng hininga. Okay, feeling nervous or powerless, having a sense of impending danger or having panic attacks. Okay, so that's anxiety. Okay, and then you have high heart rate and you are sweating. So iba po yung depression, iba rin yung anxious. So kita po natin dito, okay, yung link between depression and anxiety. But if you are depressed and anxiety and anxious at the same, so ito po yung mga makikita nating uh, mga posibleng nararanasan ng mga taong depressed and anxious at the same time. Okay, those who are both depressed and anxious are restless. Okay, they have trouble thinking, concentrating, or making decisions. Okay, they worry excessively, and let me say that most of our worries are not true. Okay, okay, so worry not too much, because again, most of our worries are not true. Okay, also unexplained physical complaints such as headaches or stomach aches. Okay, and yung pagiging irritable. Okay, agitated ka palagi. Okay, I think ano, I'll give you an example of doong pagiging depressed and anxious. I remember when uh, my sister, lima kami, yung pang-apat na kapatid ko ay nagpakasal sa isang Aussie. And then they got married here. I think that was around 2012, right? February, what, that was December 2011, sorry. December of 2011. So umuwi dito yung lalaki, nagpakasal sila. And then January, umalis yung bayaw ko, bumalik ng Australia. Kailangan maiwan ng kapatid ko uh, para ayusin yung kanyang mga papers. And after a couple of weeks, we rushed her to the hospital because um, she was complaining about stomach aches and whatnot. And then we rushed her to the hospital. Uh, Tinest ng doctor. The doctor found nothing. Okay? Pero kinocomplain ng kapatid ko, stomach ache. Stomach ache. Masakit ang kanyang tiyan. But the doctors found nothing. And so, ang tanong ng doktor sa amin at that time, ano bang sitwasyon? May pinagdadaanan ba siya? So, I remember, sabi ko sa may doktor, kakakasalang yan. Yung kanyang asawa ay wala dito ngayon. Bumalik na sa ibang bansa dahil kailangan magtrabaho at siya naman ay nag-aayos ng hotel dito. So, imagine the anxiety perhaps and the depression that my sister was experiencing at that time because she only got married and then suddenly they were separated, okay, after a couple of weeks. Okay, so ganun yung posibleng maging manifestations, okay? Stomach aches pero wala naman talagang nangyayari sa katawan natin. So that's just a sign of depression and um, anxiety, okay? Now, the advent also of social media put pressure on us to look even better on Instagram. Okay, and we know the Instagram as the most popular photo sharing, okay, app uh, in the world. Okay, on Instagram we post our most physically appealing self, and more often than not, we use filter applications where we can hide our imperfections, creating and recreating ourselves, that a self that is better approved by our online friends. And sometimes when you post pictures of yourself and of yourselves, nag-post ka ng picture at nakita mo walang masyadong nagla-like, di ba minsan dinidelete mo yung picture and then you try to post another one. At kapag maraming nag-like nun, you feel like, ito yung gusto nilang itsura ko, so I have to be like this all the time. Okay? So that has become a problem, okay, for many. Okay, today's youngsters are sadly happy victims um, of such, since we live at a time when our self approval depends on the likes, the shares, and comments on our social media posts. And sometimes hindi ka mapakali pag wala ka nakapost na litrato mo or hindi like ng mga tao yung picture mo. You feel like they don't like you because they didn't like your post. Okay, your physical features and whatnot. Now, when our filtered pictures, when our filtered photos look better than the unfiltered ones, and the virtual world agrees, we tend to keep everything that way. There is that possibility, however, that the more we approve of our filtered us, of our filtered selves, the more that we are disregarding our real unfiltered physical selves. You have to understand also that not everything that we see in social media is true. Okay, according na sa study that 90% of what you see on Instagram is not even real. Okay, so what do? We have to celebrate beauty in diversity. Cultural concepts of beauty should be celebrated. However, we have to realize that practices, okay, that enhance attractiveness but are severely harmful to our health should be stopped. Okay, in in her book Beauty and Misogyny, Harmful Culture Practices in the West, Sheila Jeffries explained that it is not enough to know that there are a lot of beauty enhancement practices, okay, that are detrimental to women's health. Because for her, women should stand against the cultural requirement on what they should do with their bodies. Okay, but then again, it's very difficult also to do that in a society that upholds perfection of looks, and that a society that upholds physical features to be giving you the status and the edge in life that you need to be successful, at least. Okay, thus for her a celebration of beauty and diversity is required. As she calls it, there has to be a culture of resistance. This is a culture that veers away from the dictates of what women in society should look like to be called beautiful. Okay? We are challenged at this time to speak up against body shaming. You have to understand that, particularly that we are living in an image driven virtual society. Embracing our physical selves entails affirming each other regardless of our skin color, regardless of our stature, and regardless of our body mass index. We are supposed to celebrate the authentic us, devoid of the filters of the virtual world, where we do not need to hide our physical flaws and to resist the demands of a deprecating, image driven society. In a society that worships perfection, embracing our physical selves is not going to be easy. Embracing our physical selves is not going to be easy. Let me highlight that. Embracing our physical selves is not going to be easy in a society that worships physical perfection. However, being positive about how we look can definitely work miracles. Okay? In the book of Psalms, okay, here in your screen right now, okay, in the book of Psalms 139, verse 14, it says, "You are fearfully and wonderfully made." Okay? It says here that we are deemed as the masterpiece of the creator of the universe, carefully, precisely, and worthily created. Now, this idea also has been espoused in sacred texts of other religious beliefs. Okay? Now, the significance of self acceptance is necessary in embracing our physical self. So, we have to be reminded that our health is foremost in all these. Remember that body size, shape, skin color, and stature are never correct indicators of a healthy life. There is nothing more important than to learn to accept and embrace who we are with all its beauty, with all its flaws and imperfections, because this is the only way that we will be able to live in at peace with our physical selves. Again, it would be impossible to live a contented life if we are not happy with our physical selves. We need to be reminded that our looks, again, are a testament that we are a byproduct of our parents' love for each other. Kapag nakita mo ang sarili mo sa salamin, lagi mong isipin na ang mukhang yan ay bunga ng pagmamahal ng iyong mga magulang. Okay? This is something that every time that we look in the mirror, we need to remind ourselves that we are full of our parents' love, care, and acceptance. Nonetheless, as we embrace our looks, we need to help others affirm their distinct beauty, inclusive of its flaws, inclusive of its scars, and of its imperfections. We need to be a part of a culture of resistance in a society that dictates beauty in physical perfection. As Amy Bloom again puts it, and something for us to ponder on. And as we end this lecture, please read this with me. You are imperfect, permanently and inevitably flawed, and you are beautiful. Again, you are imperfect, permanently and inevitably flawed, and you are beautiful. And that wraps up our discussion on the physical self. This is still SS031 Understanding the Self. And again, this is Sir E, your class instructor, your online facilitator. And again, thank you very much for joining me today. Again, this is Sir E, now signing off.